folio, we need chipboard. You need 2 pieces that are 8 inches by 3 1/8. Those are going to be the sides for our gatefold. You need 2 pieces that are going to be 8 inches by 1 1/4. Those are our spines. And then 1 piece that is 8 inches by 6 1/4, and that's our base. So I've gone ahead and prepped all of these with tape. They're ready to go, so we're going to move those to the side for a second. To cover this, you're going to need 2 pieces, 10 inches by 9 1/2. What I like to do to kind of help myself line everything up is I do like to score these 1 inch from the top and then 1 inch from the sides, so that when I'm lining up my chipboard pieces, I have kind of a visual reference on where I need the bottom of the chipboard to touch. I'm going to go ahead and attach these together. Maybe. Here we go. I didn't need to pull that all the way off. Getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so I'm going to pull a corner of that off. I'm going to line this up, flush with the bottom, make sure my score lines are lined up, and press that down and just kind of hold it down while I pull that tape backing out. Okay, so we're going to start with our base. So this is going to be your 8 inch by 6 1/4 inch piece. And I did use the 8 1/2 by 11 score tape sheets on this, so I do have adhesive edge to edge very easily without having to cover it with, 1,000 different pieces. Okay, so we're just going to kind of eyeball where the center of this is on our seam, line it up against that bottom score line, and drop it down. Okay, I'm going to now take my 1/4 inch score tape, and if you can hear like thumping and yelling, my son has a friend over and I'm not sure what they're even doing up there. I'm kind of afraid to go check, quite honestly, but it's getting close where I can send the friend home, make my son go to bed, and then all will be good. Okay, now we're doing that so that we get our space between our hinges and our cover pieces even, and to make sure we have enough space for this to bend without cracking. So next we're going to pull the tape backing off, the paper backing off of the tape on the spine pieces and put those down. I'm having a terrible time seeing that tonight. I've got contacts in and everything. So I am just going to put my big Cricut ruler down there because it's got like a non-slip bottom and it's really handy. Okay. Okay. And if you wanted to do something like that, like the ruler trick, instead of actually scoring those edges, you absolutely could do that. Sometimes I do just one or the other. Sometimes, like in this case, I do both. Either works. Okay. And we're going to do our score tape again to make sure we leave enough space in our between our hinges. Alright, now I'm going to put my ruler back down here. Now I'm going to get my gatefold edge pieces, end pieces, I don't know what you want to call them. Get the backing off of those, get those put down as well. We're lining the bottom up, of course, either with your score line or your ruler, or both, however you want to do it. And the edge of that 1/4 inch score tape. Well, that's good. Pull up the score tape, why don't you, Jennifer? Jeez. Okay. All right. So that is down. We're going to go ahead and miter our corners. All right, and we're going to fold. Just use the table and the book. And use it to push those edges up. All right, now I'm going to find my 5/8 inch score tape. I'm going to run that along here. Okay. And then I am going to get out my glue. I'm going to run just a little bit of glue right along the bottom of that chipboard, right where that spine wraps around. And then I'm actually going to get just a little bit on the chipboard itself. And before I forget completely, because I do, I'm actually going to pull the backing off the 1/4 inch score tape that's in these little valleys here. Maybe. No, don't pull up the tape. Man, maybe I should not be doing this tonight. It's just been one of those days. I've been trying to get down here all day long and just have not had a chance. Alright, let me get the score tape off of here. And go ahead and use your book to help bend that over, get it started, and then just work that over from the middle and then just press out. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Pull that backing off. Run some glue. Again, we're going to use the book to help start bending that. Start in the middle and then just push out. Okay? And then we're going to take something. You can use scissors, you can use a bone folder. Honestly, I figured out that my little Cricut tool, mat scraper thing that I use to tear my tape actually works really well. We're just going to push those edges in ever so slightly. It just gives it a cleaner corner when you fold this over. And then no clue what they're doing up there, but it sounds like little piglets squealing. Who knows? again, I'm going to use my book to start that bend, and then up and over and press it down, and again on the other side. Get it going. Over we go. All right. Now, to cover all that up, I've got a couple of pieces that are 7 3/4 by 9 1/4 that I'm going to just glue down on here to cover up all of that. What we can do first, however, is go ahead and start bending and working that down into those corners. I'm sorry, not those corners. Your gap for the hinges of on the spine of the book. Okay, that's a start. I actually need my glue. It has the bigger tip. Okay. And I'm gluing this part as opposed to using tape, because the glue does give me a minute or two that I can kind of slide this around and get it positioned exactly where I want it. And since we are going to be setting this aside while we work on our pages, it will have time to dry, so that won't be an issue either. I'm just going to go over with my mat scraper, make sure that's all pushed down, make sure my edges are down, and then we're going to do the same thing with this other piece. And these pieces were 7 3/4 by, I think, 9 1/4. But I don't think this one needs to be that full length, so I'm actually going to cut about 1.5 inches or so off of it. Okay. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Right. Same thing again. I'm going to start here on this end. I'm going to line it up with what's on the other side here, like side to side, and then just push down. All right, so we're actually going to let this sit for just a minute before we start working the creases on this again, just so that we give that glue a minute or two to dry. Where we've already worked them once, we can kind of see where they are here, so that'll be fine. We're actually going to set this aside for a minute. Once this does dry a little bit more, I didn't get tape on these. We do have some stacked pockets we're going to put on the inside of both of those little gatefold pieces. Okay, and these measure, because apparently I didn't write it down, 6 inches by 4 1/8, and then they're scored 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. What we will do is, I'm going to go ahead and get tape on here. Actually, probably by the time we get the tape on here, this will be dried enough that we can go ahead and start bending those corners. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to just miter these corners. You're going to clip out this little square out of the corner of this here. That makes it easier to fold the pocket up and reduces some of the bulk. So what I usually do is I'll fold that bottom part up first, burnish that down. Did I just put the tape on the wrong side? I did. Okay, let's fix this really quickly. We're going to have to leave it on there because I burnished it down too good, but I should be able to get it off on the other side. Okay, let's try this again. Which means I did that on my other pocket over here too that I'm going to have to fix. Dang it. Come off of there. Okay, so what I will do, go ahead and bend those over, fold this up, and then push these down onto that sticky edge. And then we'll go ahead and tape the other sides. And don't worry, we'll do this again with one of the other ones because that was just really dumb. I'm not sure how I managed to do that. Okay, so got one pocket ready to go. I am going to go ahead and pull the backing off of my score tape. And since I know this is going on this inside thing, I need it right up to the edge of the book. Okay, there's going to be another pocket on the bottom, and this one measures 4 1/8 by 4 inches. Just a minute, Nick. This time we'll do the tape right. Okay, so let's try this again. That's how your tape goes. Oh. Okay. All right, so fold that up, fold that in, fold that in, pull the score tape off of the bottom here, and then press this one down and this one down. And that's usually when I do go ahead and burnish those. Okay. Put that down on top of there. And then we should be able to start, let's get right into the bone folder, bending our book and working that down in there. See how nicely that creases down in there with that score tape in there to grab onto it? It does make it a lot easier. Okay, there's one side. And now the other. All right. Trying to decide if I just heard the doorbell. Anyway, I will actually stop this for a second and go up and check. There is our finished base. We've got our first set of pockets in. We'll do the exact same thing on this side. So we'll have the same stacked pockets on this side, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have put the second pocket on the inside of the book. We are going to set this aside for right now, and we're going to start working on the different pieces and parts for the interior. So we're going to start with our top flap. This has, our first piece is going to be 6 5/8 wide. That's wrong, that should be 6 1/8. And 9 3/4 high. Oh, it's cut right. It's just written on here wrong. Okay, so 6 1/8 wide. 6 1/8 wide, 9 3/4 inches high. With the 6 1/8 side at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score it at 1 inch and then 1 7/8 inches. So 1 inch, 1 7/8. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fold that. This has score tape on it already. Bring our book in. Okay, so here's the top parts of our pockets. I'm actually going to turn this around this way because this is going at the top of our book. I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of, actually, wait a minute. No, I'm not, because I want to put my other pieces on my flap. Ignore that. We're not doing that yet. Okay, on this flap, we're going to have a pocket on the front and a pocket on the back. The pockets both measure 6 5/8 by 8 7/8. That's where I got that other measurement from. And I put my tape on the wrong side on both of these again. So we're going to fix that really quick. It's okay. It can be fixed fairly easily. All right, let's try this again. So we're going to put the tape on the 3 sides. I'm sure I did this with every single pocket because I just was not like thinking it all the way through. Okay, so before we do that, however, I do want to find my circle punches. Where's my other one? All right. All right, so we're going to take a ruler. We're going to find the center point approximately on both of these pockets. And then we are going to cut a notch. Get this about halfway, get it centered up there. We're going to cut a notch. Just so that they're the same, we're going to do it this way. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. And we're going to put these on our flap. It's up to you if you want where they pull it out, which side you want it on, but our our pocket construction is going to be the same as it was with the ones on the front inside cover. We're just going to cut that little piece out of that corner. do that on both of these. And we'll lose stuff in the process, of course. Oh, there we go. Alright. So, fold this up. Fold our sides in. And then we're going to put this down, lining it up with the edge and the bottom of our flap. And we're going to put that one down. And we're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. This one, so I'm going to put it on the opposite side on this one. Alright, now we can put it down in the book. Oh my gosh. I mean, you could have done those after you had it down in the book. It's just much easier to do it before, because then you can move everything around the way you need it moved and so on and so forth. So we're going to bend this down. We're going to come all the way up to the top, push that down, and there's our first flap. This one is actually going to get a large magnet. And we want that magnet towards the bottom. So we turn this around. Okay. And our magnet is there. The next thing that's going to go down is our big pocket. Okay. Construction on this is going to be a little bit different. Okay, so we have a flap that's actually going to go on top of the pocket. The flap is going to be 6 1/8 by 5 3/4. You're going to score it at 1/2 inch on the 5 3/4 side. Get some tape on that and set that to the side. You need one piece 6 1/8 by 12 and one piece 7 5/8 by 8 1/2. Okay. For the 6 1/8 by 12, you're going to score this at 3 7/8 and 4 1/8. Okay, do that, set it aside. That doesn't need any adhesive. All of the adhesive is going on this pocket. So what we're going to do, okay. So, like I said, this one is 7 5/8 by 8 1/2. On the 7 5/8 side, with that at the top, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. Turn it around, score it 1/2 and 3/4 again. Turn it so that your 8 1/2 inch side is at the top. And then you are going to score it at 1 inch, 1 1/2 inches. Actually, that's not 1 1/2, is it? How did I do this? No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. I did it this way. Okay, so with the 8.5 inch side at the top, you're going to score it at 5 1/4, 5 1/2, 6 1/4, 7 inches, and then is that 7 1/2 or is that 7 5/8? 7 1/2. Okay. So 8.5 inch side at the top, 5 1/4, 5 1/2, 6 1/4, 7 inches, 7 1/2. Okay, so now that you've done that, you're going to come in here and at that 5 1/4 inch score line, you're going to cut all the way in to the 3/4 inch score line. Okay, I'm going to do this on the other side as well. You're then going to cut up that 3/4 inch score line to where you cut in up above. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on this other side. All right, so we've got a pocket. What we're going to do, we're going to fold and fold. Okay, fold and fold. So on these two little pieces that come in, these little 1/2 inch flaps that come in, you're going to put score tape. You're going to have a 1/4 inch gusset on the side of this pocket and as well on the bottom. Okay. In one of the 3/4 inch valleys here, you're going to put score tape, and we're going to fold that up like so. Okay, what we're going to do here, and the reason I'm using tape is because it's going to stick instantly, and I'm not going to have to sit and either clip this or try to hold it or something else as I'm putting this together. Okay, on each one of these sides, I'm going to pull this up just about an inch. Okay, I'm going to bend this up, and we're going to get this flush right here. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to get this side here flush with this to form that little corner of that box. And then I'm just holding my bone folder underneath there and pushing that down, trying not to smash that like I just did. Okay, so there is the base part of our pocket. Now you've got your piece that is the 6 1/8 by 12 with the flap part at the top. Okay, see, this is going to be come together like this and close like this. We're going to use a tiny magnet in here. This is going to go on the back like this. Okay, so I think the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to kind of fold this the wrong direction, just so I have somewhere to kind of butt this up against. I'm going to put this right there on that end. Make sure it's lined up side by side on the edges. Put one side down, pushing that in so it goes all the way in. And then there's our pocket. I'm just going to take my bone folder, maybe I can hang on to it, and get in there and burnish that down on both sides. And there's our other pocket. Okay, so this bottom flap is going to come up and over. So you're going to have this little L shape. Okay. This is going to go down right here. So this pocket, when it's all done, is going to flip out of the way this way. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and pull our backing off here and bring this in. You're going to put this all the way at the bottom and center it up with that flap up on top. All right, and there we go. Burnish both of those down. Okay, so get the small magnets. You could use a big one if you want to. I don't think we really need a big one on this one. Okay, I'm gonna put that right about there. That back over, making sure our little, push that down, and there's our magnetic closure there. Since this one is going to come down over the top of it, we can go ahead and get our magnet down on the other side. Oops. That backing off of there. Okay. When you do this, make sure that this is standing upright and that this is standing upright on this bottom piece here. Line them up. Press it together. Get your magnet in where it needs to be. So that is how all of this is going to be held closed, and then of course we'll do something magnetic on the front. Hold the front piece closed. This will open that way, and this will come down this way. Now, inside we're going to have two flaps that are going to fold in on each other this way, that are going to fold out. Okay, so we need the, there's my flap at. And it doesn't really matter which order we put these in, so we're going to start with the right flap. Get some of the mess out of the way here. Actually, let's slide this off to the side for a minute. So for this one, our flap is going for the right flap. So this is the flap that's going to open to the right. Is 6 7/8 by 7 7/8. I'm actually going to turn this the right way because this is the way it's going in the book. On the front of this flap, we're going to have a belly band. The belly band is 1 1/2 by 8 7/8. You're going to score it at 1/2 inch on each end with the 8 7/8 on the top. And then we're just going to center this up on here. Oh, before we get too much further. Okay. So 6 7/8 by 7 7/8. This one is scored at 1/2 inch and then 3/4 inch. So 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. Okay. So we're going to center this up. There. Okay. And even though this is going to get matted before I put this down, I am going to go ahead and erase this off of here, just in case. Okay. That over. The insert that's going to go in this belly band turn the right way, is going to be 7 inches high, 11.5 inches wide. You're going to score that at 5 3/4, so right in the middle, and that's going to slide in like that. All right, I'm going to turn this over, and on the back side, we have a flap that is 5 inches by 7 7/8, scored at 1/2 inch. And then another flap that is 6 inches by 4 1/8, scored at 1/2 inch. Okay, this is going to go on the outside edge of our flap. And this one is going to go on the other outside edge so that they overlap. Now, if you wanted to put this on here, if you wanted to, you know, change it up however you want to change it up, by all means. Okay. All right. And I think we're going to use a small magnet underneath that one as well. This is going to be kind of a magnet heavy project, but I do just absolutely love the magnets, so I do tend to use quite a few of them because I just think they're fun. So okay, so we're going to center that up on that side. All right. Okay. So we're going to fold and fold. So you've got your little 1/4 inch gusset there. This one's going to come in here on the right hand side. This up. Let me get this out here on the edge. And there is our next little flap. Okay. Now for the left side, the left flap is 7 inches by 7 7/8. This one is scored at 1/2 inch and then 7/8 of an inch. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on the back side. It's going to have those same 2 flaps. Okay, so our overlapping flaps like that. On the front, we're going to do our little trick with the circle punch again and do another big pocket. So let's actually put these on the back side of this first, which will be here. Okay. So this one goes to the edge. The edge. Do the same thing over here and fold that up so I can find my edge. Good enough. There we go. I need to grab some more small magnets because that is apparently the end of them. Maybe. are. All right. Knocking things over here. All right. Okay. All right, so now on the front, I'm going to mark the center of this again. And I'm going to mark the center of this one as well. And as you can see, I think I did my tape wrong again, because that's apparently what kind of night it's going to be. That's okay. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing with the circle punch on these. We're going to bring it about halfway down, centered up as best we can get it. All right, so let's actually pull the tape off this bottom edge again. My mind going in too many different directions tonight as I was doing this, apparently. All right, let's flip those over, redo our tape. All right, now we're in business. So we're going to do our corners just like we did on the other pockets, like this. All right. So, I may have said this already. If not, our big pocket is 6.5 by 5 7/8, scored at 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. I'm going to build our pocket just like we did before. This is going to go on top of here. I think I'm actually going to have the big pocket face this way. I'm going to put that out to the edge. And then we're going to have the second one on top. Or what we could do if we wanted to get really crazy here. We could put this one going this other direction, so this way, or we can keep it going the same way. I think I'm going to turn it this way. And I think I'm just going to try to center this up on here. There we go. All right, bring your book back in, flip everything out of the way, and then this one, of course, make sure you've got it folded right. So you've got your little L here. And that's nice because this project does go together very, very quickly, which is nice. Okay. All right. Now we can work on the center section. After all of this folds in and in and in into this perfect little package, which was kind of what I was going for with this because it is a Christmas book. So I was trying to do more of, you know, like you're opening a Christmas present, you know. You open this layer, and then there's another layer, and then there's another layer, you know. There is a method to the madness here. Okay, so in the back here, we are actually going to have a waterfall on a pocket. So the base for the waterfall is going to be 4 5/8 by 9 inches. And tape is wrong on this one too, so you're going to score 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/2 inch. And then we're going to fix our tape because I don't know what I was thinking. Could be because I have to travel for work here a week and a half and I don't really want to. But that's okay. Oh. Let's throw the paper clear across the room here. That makes sense. Do our corners again. Okay. Fold this up. Fold these in. Again. Okay, and I'm not going to take the backing off of this just yet, but I am going to get the pocket itself formed. And then push that backing down. All right, so this one, it's up to you if you want it to this side or to this side. Either one will work. It's your preference. I think because that pocket up here is pulling from that side, I think I will turn it this way. So for the waterfall itself, you're going to need 7 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 4 5/8, scored at 1/2 inch. As you all know, I like to do my waterfalls upside down. I can line them up better that way. And then this is just normal waterfall construction. Made a little bit easier because our base that we're putting this on is the same width as the waterfall itself. So that does kind of help you line it up a little bit better. And if you're like me and your waterfalls always end up being just a 1/16 of an inch off, this is a good way to keep that from happening because it's very easy to see when it's off as you're putting these down and be able to line them up better. Slightly off. Just force it over where it should be. That'll work. There we go. Okay, one more. And this one is not going to come quite to the bottom. I probably could get one more on here, but I don't really want to. I could, I guess. I think I have an extra sheet of the 4x4 cut aparts. So that's why the waterfall is the size that it is because we are going to map this with the 4x4 cut apart. So I'm going to cut one more of these really quickly. So they're 4 5/8 by 4 1/8. Ugh. Okay, so 4 5/8 at the top. Score this at 1/2 inch. Get some tape on here. All right, so we've got 8 total on here. There's our waterfall. Now we're going to put this down. Well, for crying out loud, maybe we are. Okay, I'm actually going to turn this to the side so I can get this lined up where I want it. All right, there we go. And then we can go in here, we can burnish all of these down. We're not going to do anything to secure this because the layers from everything on top of it will secure it for us. And our insert that goes back in here behind this, or in this pocket here, cooperate with me, and of course it does not, because why would it? Okay, it's catching back there on something, and I'm assuming it's probably the back part of the waterfall pocket. That's okay, we'll trim it. Actually, no, I did it too wide, didn't I? No, I didn't. It's only 6 inches. It's too wide. Okay. All right. So our insert is going to be 7 3/4 by 5 7/8. And maybe it'll fit or not. I cannot tell what it is. It's catching on in here. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So there's our insert. So this is our book. So right, left, pocket. I don't put pocket, but that insert is still not in there. Okay, so we're going to go down to 5 1/2 because it just wants to keep fighting with me. And yours may work better for you because apparently I'm just measuring challenge today. Okay, so right, left, pocket, top, and then we will work on our closure here in just a second. But there you have it. There's your base. It's super easy. This one will come together in no time. This will be one you can make a whole bunch of really, really easily. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to get everything prepped to do our cover and our closure for our cover, and I'll be right back. Okay, so for the front of the book, what I've done, because it's kind of a recurring theme in the patterns on the paper and some of the cut aparts, there's like these little wreaths. There's one in here that's, there it is. So it's just kind of like the white circle with a little bit of greenery. There's another kind of smaller wreath. There's another one. What I'm going to do for the front, first off, is we're going to take a set of big magnets, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these about right there. Okay. I'm going to take this other one. So what I have here, cut 2 5-inch circles of cardstock, one of my craft artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, and then the red just out of my stash because it was closer to the red that's in the paper. And then I've got the inside piece of a 5-inch embroidery hoop. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue this hoop to the red cardstock. We're going to get this one, get this centered up. Okay. Get that where that one needs to be. And then we can glue down the other side of this one. Okay. So I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to run, well, maybe I am. Come on. There we go. I'm going to run glue or not. Glue on half of this. Okay. Close this back up. Get our glue side pressed down where it needs to go. Make sure we didn't move it too much. I think I did. Oh yeah, way too much. Okay. Let's try this again because we've got glue everywhere and it's just not working the way I want it to. That's okay. I think I would have learned my lesson on the One Big Neverland album because I had this exact problem trying to line stuff up. But that's okay. There we go. That's much better. We're gonna figure out where my paper towel went. Okay. All right. So once we get all of this on here, it's gonna stiffen that up a little bit, give us a little bit more weight, and that's actually gonna hold this closed perfectly. But we've got our circle on here, we've got our magnets where it needs to be. We can set that to the side. I can get this glued down onto here, and you could paint this if you wanted to. I was going to originally, but since I did do the base of the album in craft and where this is just kind of that natural wood, it actually looks okay with it, so I'm not gonna I am not gonna I'm not gonna paint that. We are going to decorate it. I'm just not sure with what. I need to dig in my stash here in a second and see if I can find some greenery and some flowers and things that will go with this to decorate our little wreath for the front of our book. Oh, come on. Just open up for me here. All right, so I'm going to let that sit for a second and dry. And clean around the edges here. And once that's dry, then we can adhere it down on here. And then I think it's probably going to be easier to decorate it if it's already on the book than if we're trying to decorate it and then press it down onto the front of the book. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. And then we can start working on matting the book. If you've watched my tutorials, I don't typically give you a whole lot of measurements for matting, simply because, and this is just what I've learned from following other people's tutorials, you know, where they've said, oh, you're going to mat it at blah, 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 blah. I've gone through, cut my paper that size, and it's ended up being a little bit too small or a little bit too big, or just not quite exact, because, you know, even if you're of course following the exact measurements to build the book, that doesn't mean your finished size is going to be exactly the same as my finished size. So typically for matting, what I will do, so like on this cover here, so this ends up being about 3 1/4. Okay, so if I want a 1/16 of an inch border, which is what I'm doing with this book, so this measures 3 1/2, I would make this 3 1/8 wide. Measures 8 1/8 high, and no, it's closer to 8. Actually, it's about 8 1/16, but I would say 8 inches high, so I would go 7 7/8, and that would be my piece. So it would be 3 1/8 by 7 7/8. Okay, same thing when I'm doing this. So this pocket is about 3 1/8, so I would mat it at 3 inches by 3 3/8 inches. Okay. If I wanted a wider border, if I wanted an 1/8 of an inch border, I would deduct 1/4 of an inch from my measurement. So this is 3 1/8, so I would make it 2 7/8. Then I would have that 1/8 inch border all the way around. Typically you don't go more than that. If you wanted to go a little bit more than that, that's just basically what you do. You just keep deducting an 1/8 from the actual measurement of your page or your pocket or whatever it is you're trying to mat, until you get to the desired border that you want around this. So with these, I do want them to be a fairly small border. So for example, let's find one you can see a little bit better. So this one, because it is 3 1/8 wide, when I mat that, I'm just going to have that little tiny border around there, and I'm actually going to have to trim part of this off to get it to the right height, which is fine. But that's how you determine your matting size. So, you know, and I mean, everybody may not want to follow exactly, like if I'm piecing something with several different patterns on one, you know, page front or something, or an insert, and you didn't want to do it that way, you wanted to do a full thing, that way you at least know how to measure it to determine what your measurement is going to be to mat. So I've got my cut aparts picked out that I'm going to trim down to mat on the fronts of those 2 pockets. I've just got those tucked in there so that I know those are what I'm using those for. I've got this one clipped on here since I'm using this on the top flap of our pocket, and that is the right width. It will need to be cut a little bit top to bottom. I've decided what I'm doing on the flaps over here, so I've got those clipped on there. And again, they do need about 1/2 inch trimmed off of them. That's fine. And then of course, like I said, when we were building this for the waterfall, I am matting it with the 4x4 cut aparts. So what I have actually done is I've gone through my paper collection. I've pulled out all of those cut apart sheets. So the 4x4, the 3x4, and the 4x6. I've gone ahead and cut those apart and just set them aside. So I've got them set out, so, you know, if I wanted to, you know, say turn this one into a tag or something and tuck in somewhere, I could. And what I typically like to do is, like in this case, I have the entire paper collection of the Carnival of Christmas, which is what we're using for this. Yeah, so Carnival of Christmas. This is actually from last year. Unfortunately, it is sold out in Country Crafts Creation shop, but they have so many awesome new Christmas collections coming out between Carnival and Echo Park this year. You absolutely would be able to find one of the new ones to use to make this book yourself. And this is, you know, we're all using for our Christmas in July. This year we are all using paper collections from last year just because there wasn't time to get the new ones in and out to us to design with before we're like off into, you know, the middle of August. So, so that is the paper I'm using. What I have is a complete paper collection, which is of course 12 double-sided 12 by 12 papers, and then the sticker sheet. What I typically will do when I order paper, I'll order my collection kit like this, and then I usually will order at least one extra sheet of the cut aparts. So I've got an extra sitting over here of, you know, the 4x4 cut aparts. I've got an extra of the 3x4 cut aparts. I've got an extra of the 6x6, and that's just because oftentimes they have beautiful patterns on the back, and if you just use them as cut aparts, you're losing these patterns. So, you know, it doesn't cost that much more to just add a couple extra sheets to your collection kit. Then gives you some more options when you are designing and matting and building your books. So I am going to turn this off, get this matted up, decorated, so on and so forth. And since we don't have any weird matting with this, other than apparently because I used, what did I use? I used the 1 1/4 inch hole punch to do my little notches here. I can't find my 1 1/2 and my 1 3/4, which is too big. Anyway, you look at it, isn't working. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. Like, it's one of the EK Success that, you know, like snaps closed. It doesn't, like, it was closed. I opened it up. It doesn't want to close back up again now, and it doesn't want to punch. So I'm going to have to do a little messing with that to get those matted right, but, you know, that's not a big deal. Other than that, everything else in here is just, you know, pretty basic standard matting. The only thing that I may do a little bit differently, just because of how this book goes together, is I might actually make some small strips to mat on the edges of these here. Definitely I will on this one, because that is a big, just, you know, kind of blank space. And I wouldn't typically do that, but because this is a folio and the way it, you know, folds up and opens and everything else, I will end up matting those. So I'm gonna go ahead and mat this off camera and decorate it a little bit, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have finished matting and decorating the book. Make sure if you do this closure where I kind of mimicked the wreath using the inside of the embroidery hoop, make sure you mat before you put this down. I did actually start to put it down, or actually I did have it down and then had to pull it up so that I could mat underneath it, because, you know, heaven forbid I actually think some of these things through sometimes. So what I did on the front here, I just fussy cut around one of the cut aparts, cut just a little circle from one of the pattern papers and put on the bottom here, and then I used these little holly leaves are from Prima this year, so these are actually in the store at Country Craft Creations. These are just some of the basic graphic 45 flowers, some seam binding, and then just some of the stickers popped up on the corners. You know, matted of course all the way around, opened up. I did make some little tags, so these were 2 1/2 by 5, and then 2 3/4 by 6. I left the back of those blank so you could journal on the back here. So I did tags for both sides there. I did, of course, my inserts. On my inserts I did piece my paper on one side and then just used a whole sheet on the other side. I did that on all of those inserts. This pocket, of course, is big enough. I've got like all of my leftover cut aparts are tucked down in here. You know, you've got a photo mat here. And I actually, in the assembly, I realized this as I started matting, I forgot to have you attach this flap. You did cut the flap. You did score the flap. I had you set it to the side while we built this pocket. If you want to leave it off, you can. It's completely optional, but it just goes on the front of that little album and pocket, and you really could have it flip up, or I could have done it the other way to flip down. That comes down like that. took one of the cut aparts here and just, you know, made that into a pocket and put some more cut aparts inside. You of course have your inserts on both of those. And of course it's gonna fight with me now because, yeah. You know, there's our little booklet that goes underneath our belly band. Of course our waterfall. I did not mat the back of the waterfall just because the craft artisan cardstock goes so well with this paper collection that it really didn't need it. And then it's perfect, so you can just put your pictures in there. I did some more tags here along with our insert that goes in the pocket here behind the waterfall. For matting these two sides, because they are the same, I did actually mirror the matting on both of these with the exception of course, the little decorations. So these are just a couple of the ephemera pieces I've made into little tuck spots. One of the border strips that I used to make into a pocket, and there you go. And the whole thing folds up nice and compact. Kind of mimics, you know, my goal with this was to make it kind of like you're opening a present. So each layer is another layer of a present that you get to open. So there we have it. If you end up making this, please share it with me on either Facebook or Instagram, Scrapping Under the Influence. And thanks for watching.